Well, the newest U.S. Senator will travel to Washington today. Massachusetts Republican Scott Brown will meet with his colleagues. Many call his win the beginning of the end for Democratic control in Congress. Others say it's just a wake-up call. One thing's for sure, there is now a renewed sense of urgency in Congress to get things done, and this will have an impact on you and your wallet. So Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, is here to discuss these developments and what's coming up on the Washington front. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Stacey.
A renewed sense of urgency on whose part?
Actually, on both parties. You know, the Republicans have been scrambling to get some sense of balance there, but the Democrats have been kind of in control here for 8 months, and it hasn't gone as well as they had hoped originally.
So what's your take on Brown's win? Do you think it's going to be enough to rock the boat when it comes to health care overhaul?
You know, it seems like it's being pointed more towards a Coakley loss than a Brown win here, you know, and the reasons for that are varied in many. Some say it's as simple as the fact she just wasn't a good enough Red Sox fan, but, you know, the truth
or
is...
didn't drive around in her pickup truck in the waning days of the election.
Right, so, you know, there's some middle ground here, and I think people got frustrated with the fact that there wasn't anything being done on the health care bill, you know, and 8 months ago we sat here and they said we want to get this done before summer recess. It never got done, and now yesterday afternoon the Democrats are saying, okay, we're going to compromise, we're going to shave it back so that it can be passed, and people are asking themselves, why didn't they do that 8 months ago or 4 months ago or 2 months ago? Now we'll see what happens.
So the agenda continues, and at the top of the agenda for the president is health care. There's also midterm elections to worry about.
Yeah, and you know, that was at the bottom of the list. It's moved up. You know, they've got to get health care done in some form. People are tired of hearing about it. Then they can move on. And things like financial regulation and the bank bailout are still looming large. We're not out of the woods here yet. This has to happen. And of course, the global presence of the U.S., Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, excuse me, the list goes on, and people are starting to question, okay, what's really happening here versus what was promised.
All right, so let's talk about the financial markets, how they're reacting these days and how they're reacting in relation to what's going on in China. Obviously, China is a multi-billion-dollar producer of goods that we use here in America.
Yeah, you know, something like the Massachusetts situation would have been enough to really rock the market yesterday in the past. However, yesterday the market was more rocked by China's news that the government there is telling banks to stop lending for now because they're fearful that they're creating their own bubbles over there.
What real estate bubble specifically?
A real estate bubble and a consumer spending bubble. They're just pushing money out the doors, which sounds a lot like what was happening in the U.S. a couple years ago. All of a sudden they're saying, hey, we're a pretty powerful force. We need to back off here, and we don't want to get into the same situation the U.S. is in.
Okay, let's talk about keeping voters happy here. We talked about the midterm elections coming up this year. What's going to make voters feel like, there's a breath of fresh air in this country?
Sure. Well, you know, if you go back 2-3 months here, Bernanke and Krier were kind of saying the recession is statistically over. Everybody took that as, well, great, that means something on paper, but that doesn't get me a job. You know, and the truth is that we do need to see the economy pick up. People are dissatisfied with the focus on things like healthcare and not on the immediate need, and that is getting a job to go to on Monday morning. Of course, deficit reduction is there bugging people, you know, and knowing that the U.S. is more in debt by far than they ever have been. Now what I think we'll see with this little bit of balance in Congress is some middle ground, maybe both parties working together.
All right, Joe Krier is president of Krier Wealth Management, here to weigh in on a number of issues going on around. That's interesting that Scott Brown's election would have rocked the markets
Such a
couple
huge
years
thing.
ago.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.